I'd spent 3 weeks planning the perfect surprise Christmas party for Elena, inviting everyone who mattered in her life: family, childhood friends, college roommates, work colleagues. What I didn't expect was for 2 different groups of people to show up who had never heard of each other, despite Elena claiming to be close friends with all of them. My name is David Rodriguez, 38 years old, and I work as a marketing director for a tech company in Austin. Elena and I had been married for 6 years, and I thought I knew everything about her social circle and family relationships. I'd organized this party to celebrate her recent promotion to senior account manager and to show her how much her community cared about her success. The first sign something was wrong came when Elena's college roommate Maria arrived and introduced herself to Elena's college roommate, Jessica. They stared at each other in confusion. "I'm sorry," Maria said politely, "but I don't think we've met. How do you know Elena from college?" "I was her roommate junior and senior year at UT," Jessica replied. "Elena and I shared an apartment on Guadalupe Street." "That's strange. Elena and I were roommates junior and senior year. We lived in the dorms on campus." I watched this exchange from across the room, thinking there must be some misunderstanding about years or living arrangements. But then Elena's best friend from high school, Karen, approached Elena's childhood best friend, Linda, and a similar conversation began. "Linda, right? Elena talks about you all the time," Karen said warmly. "It's so nice to finally meet Elena's oldest friend." "I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake," Linda replied. "I don't know anyone named Karen. Elena never mentioned you." By 8:30 p.m. it became clear that Elena had been living multiple separate lives, telling different stories to different groups of people about her past, her relationships, and even her family. The revelation started small but grew into something much more disturbing. Elena's sister Patricia was talking to Elena's cousin, Monica, when they discovered that Elena had told each of them that they were her only close family member. Patricia believed Elena was an only child whose parents had died in a car accident. Monica believed Elena had one sister who lived overseas and rarely visited. Elena's work colleagues were confused when her childhood friends mentioned that Elena had grown up in Dallas, because Elena had always told her coworkers she was from Houston. Her college friends discovered that Elena had told different stories about her major, her extracurricular activities, and even her graduation year. As the party continued, I found myself mediating increasingly awkward conversations between people who all thought they knew Elena well, but were discovering they knew completely different versions of her. "David," Patricia pulled me aside around 9 p.m. "I need to ask you something privately. Are you sure Elena is my sister? Because the stories these other people are telling don't match anything I know about her life." "Patricia, what do you mean?" "That woman over there claims she was Elena's maid of honor at your wedding. But Elena told me you had a small ceremony with just immediate family." I felt my stomach drop. Elena and I had indeed had a small wedding with just immediate family. Patricia had been there. There had been no maid of honor. And Elena's work friend mentioned that Elena has a master's degree in marketing. But Elena told me she never finished college. I excused myself and went to find Elena, who was in the kitchen arranging appetizers with what appeared to be forced cheerfulness. "Elena, we need to talk privately." "David, this party is wonderful. Thank you so much for organizing it." "Elena, your guests are confused about some things. There seem to be inconsistencies in what you've told different people about your background." Her smile faltered slightly. "What kind of inconsistency?" "Your college roommates don't know each other. Your childhood friends have different stories about where you grew up. Your work colleagues think you have different educational credentials than what your family believes." Elena set down the serving platter with shaking hand. "David, this is just, people remember things differently." "Elena, Patricia is asking me if she's really your sister." The color drained from her face. What I discovered over the next hour, as confused guests compared notes, was that Elena had been systematically lying to everyone in her life about fundamental facts of her identity. I gathered the most confused guests in our home office and asked them to share what they knew about Elena's background. According to her work colleagues, Elena had a master's degree in marketing, grew up in Houston, had one sister who lived in Europe, and had worked at 3 previous marketing agencies. According to her college friends, Elena had majored in communications, grew up in Dallas, was an only child whose parents had died, and had worked in retail before entering marketing. According to her high school friends, Elena had dropped out of college, grew up in San Antonio, had 2 brothers, and had never worked in marketing before her current job. According to Patricia, who claimed to be her sister, Elena had grown up in Austin, finished high school but never attended college, had been married once before, and had worked as a dental assistant before changing careers. None of these stories were compatible with each other. Even more disturbing, when I asked guests to show photos of Elena from their claimed shared experiences, many of the photos showed Elena with people none of the other guests recognized, at events that contradicted the timelines other people had described. "David," said Maria, Elena's supposed college roommate, "I'm starting to think the Elena I knew might not be the same person as your wife." "What do you mean?" "I mean I have photos of my roommate Elena from college, and while she looks similar to your wife, I'm not sure it's the same person. The facial features are close, but not identical." Other guests began expressing similar doubts. The Elena they remembered had different mannerisms, different speech patterns, different preferences than the Elena who was my wife. By 10 p.m., half the guests had left in confusion. Those who remained were trying to piece together what had happened. I found Elena in our bedroom, packing a suitcase. "Elena, what are you doing? I need to go away for a while. This party, it's brought up a lot of complicated feelings about my past. Elena, who are you?" She stopped packing and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not sadness or fear, but something closer to relief. "David, my real name is Carmen Valdez. I'm 34 years old, not 36. I grew up in El Paso, not any of the places I told people. I never went to college. I've never worked in marketing before this job." I sat down on the edge of the bed, trying to process what I was hearing. "Carmen, your name is Carmen. I became Elena Rodriguez when I moved to Austin 5 years ago. I created a fake identity because I was running from an abusive relationship and needed to start over completely." "Elena, Carmen, why didn't you just tell me the truth?" "Because the truth was that I was a high school dropout with no work experience, no family support, and a history of domestic violence. Elena Rodriguez was everything I wanted to be: educated, successful, from a stable family. But the people at the party, the friends and family, I met all those people after I became Elena. But I told each group different stories because I was afraid that if anyone knew too much about my past, they'd discover that Elena Rodriguez wasn't real. So you created multiple fake backgrounds to support one fake identity. I thought if I kept the stories separate, no one would ever compare notes. I never expected anyone to bring all these people together in one room." The next morning, after Carmen Elena had left for what she said would be a temporary separation, I spent hours researching what I'd discovered. I found public records for Carmen Valdez, high school graduation in El Paso, no college enrollment, a restraining order against an ex-boyfriend named Miguel Santos. I also found records showing that Elena Rodriguez's social security number had been issued only 5 years ago, around the time Carmen had moved to Austin. My wife had been living under a stolen or fabricated identity for our entire relationship. But the more I researched, the more I understood why. Miguel Santos had been arrested 3 times for domestic violence against Carmen. The restraining order included photos of injuries that made me understand why she'd felt the need to disappear completely and become someone else. Carmen had created Elena Rodriguez not to deceive people maliciously, but to escape a situation that threatened her life. The multiple fake backstories were a byproduct of trying to maintain an identity that allowed her to build the kind of life she'd never been able to have as Carmen Valdez. 3 weeks later, Carmen called me. "David, I want to explain everything properly. Can we meet?" We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop where we'd had our first date, back when I thought I was dating Elena Rodriguez. "Carmen, I've been doing some research. I understand why you felt you needed to create a new identity. I never meant to lie to you about who I was, but by the time our relationship became serious, I was terrified that telling you the truth would make you leave. The truth about Miguel Santos and the domestic violence. The truth about everything. That I wasn't the educated, successful woman you thought you'd married. That my family wasn't the loving, supportive family I described. that I'd spent most of my 20s just trying to survive. Carmen, did you love me, or did you love the idea of being married to someone who believed Elena Rodriguez was real? She was quiet for a long time. Both, I think. I loved you, but I also loved being the person you thought I was. Elena Rodriguez got to have the kind of marriage that Carmen Valdez never could have imagined. What happens now? I don't know. I can't go back to being Carmen Valdez. Miguel is still out there, and that life wasn't safe. But Elena Rodriguez isn't real, and pretending to be her is exhausting. Over the following months, Carmen and I worked with a therapist who specialized in trauma recovery and identity issues. The solution wasn't simple, but it was honest. Carmen legally changed her name to Elena Carmen Rodriguez, combining her real first name with the identity that had allowed her to build a new life. She enrolled in community college to earn the education credentials she'd claimed to have. She took a lower-level position at her company, and worked her way back up based on actual experience rather than fabricated credentials. Most importantly, she began telling people the truth, that she was a domestic violence survivor who had needed to create a new identity for her safety, and that she was now working to build an authentic life that honored both her real past and her genuine aspiration. We're still married, though it took time to rebuild trust based on who Carmen actually is rather than who Elena had pretended to be. The Christmas party that exposed Carmen's secret became a turning point that ultimately saved our marriage by forcing us to deal with truth instead of fiction. Some of the guests from that party have become genuine friends to Carmen, people who know her real story and support her journey toward authenticity. Others were understandably upset about being deceived and chose not to maintain relationships built on false foundation. Patricia, who had believed she was Elena's sister, was actually a woman Carmen had met at a support group for domestic violence survivors. Their friendship had been real, even though the family relationship had been fabricated. Today, Carmen works in victim advocacy, helping other domestic violence survivors navigate the legal and practical challenges of rebuilding their lives. Her experience with identity creation has become a valuable skill in helping other women understand their options for safety and independence. The most important lesson from this experience wasn't about deception or revenge. It was about understanding the difference between lies told to harm others and lies told to survive harm. Carmen's fake identity had hurt people's feelings and created confusion, but it had also saved her life and allowed her to become the person she'd always had the potential to be. The Christmas surprise party revealed that the woman I'd married wasn't who I thought she was, but it also revealed that who she actually was, a survivor with the courage to reinvent herself completely, was someone worth knowing and loving authentically. Sometimes the most shocking discovery isn't that someone has been lying to you, but that they've been lying to themselves about what they deserve and what they're capable of achieving. Carmen Valdez had created Elena Rodriguez because she didn't believe Carmen deserved love, success, or safety. The party that exposed Elena's fake identity also revealed Carmen's real strength, and Carmen Rodriguez, her authentic self, turned out to be more remarkable than Elena Rodriguez had ever pretended to be.